بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back, guys, from the Ramadan break. We took a break, we took a pause from the studies. We were doing advanced structures. We couldn't finish all the topics. We are remaining with about 3 topics. They're fairly big, so we'll see, maybe we'll split it up. But yeah, so we'll continue with today we're covering past tense and present tense, how they're used in different instances. So when you're reading a sentence, or for example, especially in the Quran, because again, the only reason we are learning Arabic, we're studying Arabic, is so that we can be able to interact, connect, and understand the Quran. So when you're reading a past tense, a MaDi or a مضارع in the Quran, you need to ask yourself, is this a normal usage? Is this a different kind of usage, a non-standard usage, and things like that. So that's what we're going to cover today, inshallah. How the MaDi and the مضارع can be interpreted in the Quran specifically. All right. So welcome back, and I hope may Allah accept our Ramadan, and may Allah make us see many, many, many more Ramadans to come. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Okay, let's just get into it then. So there are two things, of course. There's the MaDi, and then there's the مضارع. There's the past tense, and then there's the present tense. Okay. Now, in Arabic, the past and the present tenses can be used for other than the expected standard use. You know, like in English, there's certain standard usages for MaDi and مضارع. But in Arabic, sometimes the MaDi can be used for other things, or to give a certain kind of meaning, right? And the مضارع can also be used for different things to give a certain different kind of meaning. So in other words, there are two kinds of usage. Okay, you can use the مضارع and the MaDi in a standard way, in the normal way, or you can use it in a non-standard way. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to understand. So if you have a فعل ماضي, we'll start with MaDi and then we go to مضارع, because, you know, past, then present, then future. So we'll start with the past. We'll start with فعل ماضي. With فعل ماضي, there are 3 ways in which it is used in a normal sense. In a normal sense, to indicate the past. So it could be just a plain past. You know, just you're referring to something in the past, is just plain, there's nothing different about it. Or you could be referring to one incident in the past, something that happened once. Okay, for example, independence, it happened once, okay, in history. Or for example, I don't know, the creation of Adam, it happened once in history, right? Or you could be talking about a repeated occurrence in the past, something that happened in the past, but it kept on happening. Okay, it kept on happening over a period of time, if you will. So it's something that kept on happening in the past. So those are the 3 ways in which you can use the MaDi in a standard way. This is normal. This is still normal. There's nothing odd about these kinds of usages. Now, you can also use the MaDi for dua, and we're going to see in details how this is. We can also use the MaDi for promises and warnings. And we can also use the MaDi for when it comes after specific structures. And those structures, based on the context, it will tell us, do we translate this as MaDi or as مضارع, even though we are using فعل ماضي. Okay, so this is important. We'll get to this. I'm just doing a simple summary, like an introduction, and then we'll get to the details of it. So that's MaDi. مضارع, same thing. You have a standard use and a non-standard use. So standard use, we can use it to, you know, portray the present tense. Like when you use the مضارع, you're just talking about now, what is happening right now. Or you can use it to talk about what's going to happen in the future. Remember, in Arabic, there's no future tense. The مضارع covers both now and in future. So that's a normal use. Now, in a non-standard use, again, you have 3 things. So you have painting a picture, the مضارع, even though it could be like an event that happened in the past, but you're describing it in the مضارع because you want to paint a picture. You want people to live the experience, to think as if it's happening right now, even though it may have happened a long time ago. So that's painting a picture. Or it could be an emphatic command. And we're going to see what that means. Or it could be preceded by if. This is not followed. Need to fix this. Preceded by if. When it comes after إذ. So when the مضارع comes after إذ. So you have إذ and then مضارع. So there could be a non-standard use there. So this is a summary. Now let's go into the فعل ماضي now. Okay. So we're going to start with the standard use, and then we'll look at non-standard use. Okay. So under the standard use, we said there are three things. There's the plain past, there's a single occurrence, and then there's a repeated past. When you're just discussing the past plainly, okay, you could either be discussing the past, maybe it's something that happened yesterday. That's a recent past. Okay, something that happened yesterday. It's not long ago. Or you could be discussing something that happened at the time of Nuh. That's a long time ago. That's a distant past. So you have those two kinds of past. How would you know the difference? Context. And again, you would realize that the way as we go through this topic, context is what will guide you through everything. It comes a lot. So what will guide you between recent past and distant past? Context. This is the key. Okay. For example, if I say ذهبت is a فعل ماضي. ذهب يذهب. So ذهبت, I went. إلى السوق, to the market. أمس, yesterday. When I say I went to the market yesterday, you're not thinking about 1400 years ago. You're not thinking about 50,000 years ago. You're thinking about yesterday. It's a recent past. Something that happened, very recently. Or if you say أكل الولد العشاء. أكل الولد العشاء. Maybe right now, I don't know, it's whatever time it is. But when I say العشاء, العشاء is a specific meal that is eaten at a specific time. This is dinner, okay? So dinner, depending on what time you're in right now, it could either be yesterday's dinner. It's probably just yesterday's dinner. Like there's no, yeah. So when I'm saying that the boy ate dinner, I'm not talking about 10 millennia ago. I'm just yesterday's dinner is what I'm talking about. Yeah, so it's understood from the context that I'm talking about a recent past, okay? Or if you're looking at a distant past, something that happened a long time ago, again, the context would tell you. For example, if I say, فتح صلاح الدين القدس. صلاح الدين conquered Al-Quds. صلاح الدين conquered Al-Quds. When I say that, you're not thinking about yesterday. When I say فتح صلاح الدين القدس, when I say صلاح الدين conquered Quds, you're thinking about the time of Salah ad-Din. Yeah, you're thinking about a distant past, not yesterday, not last week, a distant past. So again, the context tells you. Or for example, if I say خلق الله آدم من تراب. Allah created Adam from dirt or from soil or any one of those. Yeah. If I say that, you're not thinking about 2 weeks ago. I mean, Adam was not created 2 weeks ago. Adam was created God knows when. We don't even know the dates. Yeah. So I'm talking about a very distant past, something that happened a long, long, long time ago. So that's one way of looking at the past. Is it recent? Is it distant? Okay. Again, context would distinguish between the two. Now then we go to the second way of a normal usage of the past tense, the MaDi. Okay, it can be used to single out an event, to say that an action occurred only once in the past. Okay, and most of the time we have here kana plus MaDi. Yeah, we know kana used to. Kana plus MaDi will denote a single event, as opposed to kana plus مضارع, which we're going to see it denotes a repeated event. So, for example, أرسل الله طوفانا عظيما إلى قوم نوح. أرسل الله طوفانا عظيما إلى قوم نوح. When I say Allah sent a mighty or a great flood to the people of Nuh, I'm not talking about something that kept on happening in the past. This is something that happens once in history. It happened once, okay? So it's not a repeated occurrence in the past. Again, what will tell you? Context will tell you. Or for example, in this next example, we have إن كانت البنت خرجت معهم فقد رأوها. فقد رأوها. إن كانت البنت خرجت معهم فقد رأوها. If the girl basically left out with them or went out with them, they would have seen her. They would have seen her. If the girl went out with them, they would have seen her. It's not talking about the girl going several times. If the girl went several times. So this is again كان plus ماضي. كانت خرجت. If the girl left out with them, they would have seen her. Guys, give me a second. Sorry about that. Okay, we're back. Okay, so basically I was just explaining كان plus ماضي in this second example. But again, you see in the first example, there's no كان plus ماضي. But the context will tell you. Because you know it only happened once. Yeah? And then you have repeated occurrence in the past. And again, this is something you can have either كان plus مضارع. I didn't put an example of here, كان plus مضارع, but it's something that you understand. Something that happened repeatedly in the past. Or, again, what will tell you? Context will tell you. So, for example, if I say, ذهب الولد إلى المدرسة العام الماضية. The boy went to school the previous year. The boy went to school the previous year. I'm not saying that, did he go to school once? No, the whole year he's been going to school, because no child goes to school once. Once they start going to school, they basically just keep on going to school, right? So when you hear this, it doesn't mean that, oh, they just went to school once. No, when somebody says this, they actually mean they started school last year, but they kept on going. Every day they went to school, right? So it's understood in that sense. Or for example, طلعت الشمس متأخرا في الأسبوع الماضي. طلعت الشمس متأخرا في الأسبوع الماضي. The sun rose late last week. Okay. طلع, is it to rise or to set? Why am I confused right now? Can somebody confirm for me before I make a mistake here? طلع. Is it to rise or to set? To rise, I think. Let me just confirm real quickly.
Yeah, it should be rise, tulu.
Right.
Otherwise,
Rise,
you
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I don't know why I got confused there for a minute. Anyway, yeah. So the sun rose late في الأسبوع الماضي, last week. So when I say the sun rose late last week, I'm not talking about just once. I'm talking about an entire week of the sun rising late. Okay, so it's understood in the context. So those are the three ways in which the MaDi is used in a normal way to refer to the past. It could be a distant past, it could be a recent past, it could be once, it could be repeated, whatever it is, as long as it's referring to something in the past. It's a normal usage. Okay. Now, when it comes to the standard usage, just ask yourself two questions. Is it recent or distant? Is it repeated or single occurrence? That's it. And you're done with the normal usage. Okay, any questions on the standard usage? I think it's pretty straightforward and clear. Then we come into now this non-standard usage, where it is not used in the past meaning. Could be used in a different kind of meaning. For example, ad-du'a, which is very, very common, is something we say to each other all the time. Like you do something good to somebody and they say, Jazakallahu khairan, Jazakillahu khairan. Or somebody is sick, you're visiting the sick and you say, Shafakallah. Or you say, Hayyakallah, Hafidakallah, or La'anahullah, if you really hate them. Or you're talking about Iblis, or you're talking about, you know, the Israeli government. You can say La'anahumullah. Yeah. So this is in the form of a dua. When we say this, we're saying it in the form of a dua. Jazakallahu khairan. May Allah. We don't literally translate that Allah rewarded you. That's not how we translate it. We translate in the form of a dua. May Allah reward you with all the khair. Or may Allah reward you with khair. Shafakallah, may Allah cure you. Not Allah has cured you. Clearly you're sick. When you're telling this to a person who is sick, they're still sick. They're not cured. But you're making a dua for them. So the MaDi can be used to invoke a dua in the form of a dua. That's one. Number two, the MaDi can also be used to give promises or to give warnings. Okay, so to give a promise or to give a warning. And this is used in the as a form of emphasis. And again, why is it not standard? Because it's not translated as a MaDi. It's translated as a مضارع in the future tense. When you're translating these warnings, you're translating them in the future. You're saying it has happened, but it's actually hasn't happened. Yeah, so that's kind of like how you look at promises and warnings. I think it will be clearer when we look at the examples. So yeah, most of this time it comes when describing Jannah and Jahannam. Jannah promises, Jahannam warnings. It happens a lot in the Quran. It happens as if it has happened. The MaDi is used, but we haven't gone to Jannah. We haven't gone to Jahannam. نعوذ بالله من ذلك. We ask Allah for protection. We ask Allah for Jannah. We don't want to go to Jahannam. So basically, that's what happens. So let's look at these examples. You have حاضرنا لا تقلق. حاضرنا لا تقلق. Literally, it means we have attended. Don't worry. So maybe, I don't know, somebody invites you for a wedding or some event or something, and they're not so sure if you're going to come. And you're like, حاضرنا لا تقلق. We're going to come. Literally, that's how we're going to, not literally, but figuratively, that's how we're going to translate it. But literally, it's a MaDi. حاضر يحاضر. Family 3, right? But when we use it like this, we are actually saying it's as if it's done. Don't worry, like we are attending as if it's already done. It's already written. Don't worry about it. And we are using the MaDi to emphasize the fact that it's going to happen in the future. Okay? So we are making a promise that it will happen. Don't worry. Okay? Or if we're giving a warning, for example, قُتِلَ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ وَبَقِيَ اللَّهُ الْبَاقِي. Maybe somebody says this, somebody's giving a khutbah, and it says, قُتِلَ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ وَبَقِيَ اللَّهُ الْبَاقِي. And you look around, you're like, wait, what? Because literally, it means everything has been killed, everything has been deadified, if that's a word. Everything has been made dead, and Allah al-Baqi has remained. But when you look around, everything around you is alive. You're alive. Everybody's alive. So what does this mean? It doesn't mean literally everything is. It's actually giving a warning about maybe the day of judgment. Everything will be killed and Allah will remain. So you translate this, both of this, you translate them in the مضارع sense. Okay, hope that's clear. Again, these examples are, these lessons are pretty straightforward. You know, there's not really a lot of explanation required because it's understood. Now here is where there's a lot to be discussed. Still not difficult, but just there's a little bit extra. Okay, so we said non-standard usages, there are 3 kinds. There's the dua, there's the promises and warnings. We've done that. And then the third part is that there are certain specific structures that come with the MaDi that determine, is it going to be translated as a MaDi or a مضارع? You're not so sure. So this is a different category on its own, where it can either go MaDi or مضارع, depending on the context. Again, context is what would tell you. If you want to understand this topic, just look at the context. That's going to be your guiding factor. So the first one is silatul mawsul. Okay, so you have your silatul mawsul. It comes in the form of a MaDi, but sometimes it could be translated as MaDi or مضارع because it's a silatul mawsul. In other words, if it comes after an isim mawsul. If it comes after an isim mawsul, you look at what came before. Is it an isim mawsul? Okay. If it's an isim mawsul, how do I translate it? Again, what will tell you? The context will tell you. So for example, if I say, هو الذي جاء أمس, he is the one who came yesterday. He is the one who came yesterday. Again, الذي is acting here. This is جاء أمس is a silatul mawsul, and of course this is a khabar of that. I think the grammar is pretty clear there. Anyway, he is the one who came yesterday. There's no doubt that he's the one that I'm talking about the future here. Again, the context tells you yesterday means past. So I'm going to translate this as the past. I'm not going to say he's the one who is coming yesterday. People will just think you're mad or something is wrong with you. So this one, you just translate it as a normal MaDi. He is the one who came yesterday. But for example, in our next example, we say, Al-afdalu man qala la ilaha illa Allah thumma istaqam. الأفضل من قال. من قال. The best is the one who, I can't say said, because it's not like a really once in a lifetime thing. You say La ilaha illallah and then that's it. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm saying the best is the one who says. Again, we will translate this. Even though it is qala, he said, but when I'm translating it, I'm going to say the best is the one who says La ilaha illallah, then he is steadfast. Thumma istaqam, then he becomes steadfast. Again, we're translating it in the future tense or the mudara tense, because it's not something that happens once. Is that clear, the difference between these two? You can see the context that it tells you how you're going to translate it. Okay, so that's the first one, silatul mawsul. The second one is when you have haythu or min haythu. In other words, here you can look at it if you have isim mawsul. So either you can look at the fi'l as silatul mawsul, or you can look at what came before, which is the isim mawsul. So if you have an isim mawsul, that's the first one. The second one is if you have haythu or min haythu. Min haythu. Again, this is a mabni, so it's always going to be haythu. It's not going to change. It's not going to be min haythi. That doesn't happen. It's min haythu. Okay. So again, depending on the context, you will either translate it as madi or mudara. For example, قاتلوهم من حيث قاتلوكم. قاتلوهم. Sorry, this is an amr. قاتلوهم من حيث قاتلوكم. So fight them from wherever they fought you. I'm not going to translate this as fight them from wherever they are going to fight you. من حيث, like how? The command is based on something that happened in the past. قاتلوهم, fight them from wherever they fought you. So they're already fighting you. You basically tit for tat. Do the same what they did to you. This is what the context is saying. So obviously I'm going to translate this word من حيث قاتلوكم. قاتل يقاتل. I'm going to translate it as the ماضي, not the مضارع, right? But you have an instance, for example, in our second example, اذهب حيث شئت. اذهب حيث شئت. Go wherever. You cannot say you wanted. Go wherever you want. Again, you see now this, we're translating it as a mudara because the context tells you. Even in English, you don't say go wherever you wanted. I mean, most of the time we say go wherever you want, do whatever you want. But in Arabic, would say if'al ma shi't. We don't say if'al ma tasha. You can't say do whatever you want, if'al ma tasha. But most of the time you will see the madi being used in this sense. if'al ma shi't. idhab in shi't. Yeah, things like that. So you see the madi coming in that sense. I hope that's clear.
Again, can you please explain this? قاتلوهم من حيث قاتلوا. Both are madi only, right? Sister, قاتلوا and قاتلوكم.
No, one is an amr. One is an amr. Okay. The first one is an amr.
قاتلوهم. Fight them.
Fight them, like jahid. So qatil.
Okay. قاتلوهم من حيث قاتل. This is a madi one.
Yeah,
so
the second one is
translate them in the. We'll translate them in the normal mudari form.
No, this one is, the context tells you it's something that has happened in the past. So what I've highlighted, this is the fi'al madi. قاتل يقاتل. This is the fi'al madi that we're dealing with. The first one is a fi'al amr. So we're not dealing with the first one. The first one is a fi'al amr. And again, the madi is coming after min haythu. See that? So now we are trying to understand, how do we translate this madi? Do we translate it as a madi or a mudara? Because it's coming after min haythu. How would we know? We look at the context of the sentence. What event are we talking about? Did it happen in the past, or is something that is going to happen in the future? So for example, قاتلوهم, fight them from wherever they fought you. Fought already happened. We cannot say fight them from wherever they're going to fight you in this instance, because it's talking about war. Like, you don't I mean, I guess maybe you can also translate it like that if the fighting hasn't happened yet. But here we are looking at it in the context of the past.
Either way
Like the
can it
fight.
go, right, Sister Nam?
Yeah, either way it can go. Yeah.
I have a
Sister Nam,
question.
if this, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, you go ahead first.
Sister Nam, I was saying this is like a template, like Fa'il Amr and Min Haisu. Then if it comes Madi, then you will decide whether it has to be translated as Madi or Mudare.
I don't know that is a template as such, but mostly I see it coming with like a Fa'il Amr before it. But no, I don't think it's a template. I don't think it's a must that it has to be a Fa'il Amr.
Okay.
I mean, these are the examples that I found.
Okay.
So I just went with them.
The last word is qatalukum, right? So that's huwa. So
sorry,
because you're translating it as kill them from wherever they killed you, or he killed you.
Fight them from wherever they fought you. Qatal. Oh, he fought you. Okay, sorry. Yeah, this was a typo. Qatalukum.
Right. Okay.
Missing a wow. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a good catch. The first one was basically the huwa version. Now this is the hum version. Qatalukum. Yeah. Any other questions here? Again, depending on the context. If the context is talking about something that happened in the past, you will translate it as a past.
Home,
if the context
so
is
kill, yeah.
Okay. Go on.
No, I'm saying it was home, right? Because it goes to the original home. Kill them from wherever they kill you.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was meant to be home. I just missed the wow.
Yeah, okay.
Good. Any other questions? Okay. So that's the second structure. So far we've done isim mawsul. If you have an isim mawsul before, we've done if you have haythu or min haythu coming before. Next we have lawla. If you have lawla before the fi'al madi. Okay. So again, lawla, if it comes before a fi'al madi, the context will tell you either you translate it as a madi or a mudara. For example, if I said lawla ukilat at-ta'am amsi. If only the food was eaten yesterday. I'm not going to say if only the food was going to be eaten yesterday. Doesn't make sense. So the context tells you the fact that there's ams here already puts the meaning to the past. Already is telling you something happened in the past. So if only the food was eaten yesterday, maybe you woke up and the food was spoiled and you're like, oh, if only this food was eaten yesterday. Yeah, something like that. So you're going to translate this in the Madi. But sometimes you can say لولا سامحتني اليوم. لولا سامحتني اليوم. You're asking somebody for forgiveness and you're like, oh, if only you just forgave me today. Or you forgive me today. Because obviously in English you can say if only you forgave me today, because that's how you say it. But I mean the idea is you're not forgiving yesterday or any other in the past, you're forgiving today. So if only you forgive me today. Like, can you please forgive me today? It's sort of like we talked about this when we were doing fa sababiyya, and we mentioned urging, like a soft kind of urging, like when you see lawla and la, and there's so many different kinds of. It's called arad and tahdid. It's a very difficult word, tahdid. Anyway, so if you want some revision on fa sababiyya, you can watch the lecture, or you can ask me questions in the chat, in the group chat, inshallah. But so that's the idea of lawla. You just ask yourself, like al-yawm here gives you the context of present tense. It doesn't give you the context of past. So you look at the context and what is the context saying. That will guide you into that. So that's lawla. So far we've done 3. We've done ism mawsul, we've done min haythu and haythu, we've done lawla. So we go to the fourth one, 2 remaining. We go to the fourth one. Fourth one is jumla shartiya. So if you have a jumla shartiya coming after or the ماضي coming as a جملة شرطية or a فعل شرط, in other words. Okay, so if the ماضي is coming as a فعل شرط, if it, well, technically no. Let me rephrase that, because we're looking at a جملة شرطية. جملة شرطية can either be, and here is جملة فعلية, so it can either be ماضي or مضارع. So if it comes as a ماضي, then the meaning we are implying is that it only happened once. It's a one-time event. If you have a ماضي in a جملة شرطية, it means one-time usage, one-time occurrence, one-time event. If you have if you have فعل مضارع in a جملة شرطية, then it means repeated occurrence, repeated event. Okay. So again, just remember that everything when it comes to أداة الشرط, they push the meaning to the future except لو. لو is the only one that you translate in the past, but everything else you translate in the future. If you have in, if you have من شرطية, whatever أداة الشرط you're having, it will push, or إذا, if they'll push the meaning to the future. All right. So let's look at some examples with that. So for example, if I say إن أسلم فقد هدي. إن أسلم فقد هدي. If he submits, or if he becomes Muslim, in other words, then he has been guided. So if he submits, again, we're pushing the meaning to the future, so we're translating it as a مضارع because it's a جملة شرطية, but the idea is if he became Muslim once. Like, I'm not talking about every day he woke up and is like, oh, I'm Muslim today again. Like, it's not a repeated thing. It's something that happens once. You become Muslim once, right? So in Aslama, if he becomes Muslim, then he will be guided, or he is guided. Yeah. Or if we say in تخشع. Now تخشع is not a فعل ماضي. خشية يخشع. No, this is خشع. خشع يخشع. This is not خشية. Different word. إن تخشع الله. If you fear Allah, فهو خير لك. Then it is good for you. Here it doesn't mean that it's just one-time thing. It means that if you continue to fear Allah, then it will be good for you. Okay, so it's a continuous thing that is happening in the future. And again, remember, because of shart, we are translating it in the future. That's why it's both مضارع. Okay, any questions there? Okay, then the last structure that comes with a فعل ماضي and determines how it will be translated is this template we are calling همزة التسوية. همزة التسوية. Now this template, basically there's a hamza at the beginning, so a, and then you have a فعل ماضي comes after it, then you have and then another فعل ماضي, something like that. And most of the time you would see سواء على. So if you see سواء على, this is a dead giveaway that we are looking at همزة التسوية. سواء علينا ذهبت لم تذهب. Okay, لم تذهب. So this is kind of like what we are talking about. So if you see سواء, kind of like سواء على. So this means سواء علينا is the same for us. أذهبت if you go, لم تذهب if you don't go. I don't say it is the same for us if you went or you didn't go. I don't translate it in the past. I say it in the future or in the present tense. It's the same whether you go or you don't go. Even in English, that's how we speak. It's the same for me. You want to go, go. You don't want to go, go. Don't go. Fine. سواء علينا, it's the same for us. So that's the kind of template that you just need to watch out for. So سواء and this one will be translated in the مضارع. Okay. Any questions? So I'm just going to do the summary of the فعل ماضي before we go into the مضارع. I don't think we will go into the مضارع today. We will finish off the مضارع tomorrow because I feel like it will be a lot. So tomorrow we'll do the مضارع and the exercises as well, because the مضارع is a bit shorter. ماضي is a bit longer. So let's just look at the summary of it all. Okay. Let me make it, you know what? Let's just make sure that we can see everything there. Okay. So basically, This is your summary of everything about the MaDi. So we said, and especially the 5 structures, because that's the first one. The first 2 are easy. When you're looking at a non-standard usage, we said you have dua. Dua is easy. Just remember Jazakallah. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then promises and warnings. Just remember, like, you're using the MaDi to make a promise, or you're using the MaDi to give a warning. Yeah. So that one, especially in the context of think Jannah Jahannam. That's the context in which you think promises and warnings, right? But when it comes to these specific structures, that's when it gets a little bit tricky, because there's 5 things to think about. Okay. So you have, if it's the fi'al madi, it's a silatul mawsul. In other words, if it comes after an isim mawsul. So you're going to be looking at what comes before the fi'al madi. Okay, that's a trick. You look at what comes before the fi'al madi. Is it an isim mawsul? If it's an isim mawsul, then I'm going to look at the context. The context would tell me either to translate it as madi or as mudara. Context. Okay. You go to min haythu. If the madi, if what comes before the madi is min haythu or haythu, again, you look at the context. You look at the context. The context will tell you this is a madi, this is a mudara. Lawla, same thing. You look at the context. Lawla plus a madi. What is the context? Then the context will tell you this is madi, this is mudara. Now, for jumla shartiya, it's always going to be translated as a mudara, but the difference is that if it's madi, it showcases a one-time event, single occurrence. But if it's mudara, then it showcases a repeated event. So it's still mudara, still in the future, but it's either one time or repeated. And then lastly, we have hamzatut taswiya, and this one is always going to be translated as the mudara. So these 2, always mudara.
So lawla should be in madi form, right?
Lawla, if it comes with a madi, again, depending on the context, you'll either translate it as madi or mudara. So these 3, it depends on context. Yeah, so that's why I was saying context is very important, because you can see all these 3, they depend on context. Jumla shartiya, it's always going to be in mudari anyway. Why? Because it's jumla shartiya. You translate it in the future. Remember when we were learning idha, and Ustaz said idha pushes the meaning to the future? That's because it's jumla shartiya. Idha tadhab, if you go, this will happen, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Confusion. Law even it's also it's a jumla.
You're asking about law, not lawla.
Yeah, no, lawla. I was asking about lawla only. Law is jumla shartiya form, right? But when it comes with the lawla, it depends on the context whether we can translate it as a madi or mudari. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, depends on the context. Yeah.
And in jumla shartiya and hamzatul taswiya, it will be translated to a mudari.
Yes.
But if it comes with madi, it is a one-time event in mudari form in a future tense, and if it comes with mudari, it is a repeated event in a future.
Yes.
Okay, then it's fine.
Yeah, that's it. So just remember, law is also adatu shart, is also a jumla shartiya, but it's always translated in the madi. So this is the only exception here, law. But all the other ones in man, ma, shartiya, all the other ones, you translate it in the future. Or in the mudara, basically. Okay. Any other questions there? Okay, I'm not going to go through the fi'al mudara, and we're not going to do the exercises today. But you can just go through these 2 passages if you have the time, just to think about the different. But some of them are mudara. So once we cover mudara tomorrow, then we can be able to comfortably look at what happened here. Okay. You can be able to comfortably look at the exercises, inshallah. So if there are no other questions, basically that's MaDi. Standard usage, non-standard usage. It's not really a difficult topic. It's just that maybe these structures, remembering these structures. But what I find easy to do is this table just really helps me to remember, because I know that when I'm looking at the فعل ماضي, there's 3 for standard usage, there's 3 for non-standard. Easy. For مضارع, I know there's 2 and then there's 3. So now I just have to think about, okay, is it standard? If it's standard, there are 3 things. If it's non-standard, there are also 3 things. Yeah. So if it's standard, what are the 3 things? It's either plain past, so recent and distant past, or it's single occurrence, or it's repeated occurrence. That's standard usage. If it's non-standard usage, then I'm looking at dua, promises and warnings, or the 5 specific structures. Then you go into the 5 specific structures. So what are they? Then I'm looking at اسم موصول. If it comes, if before it is an اسم موصول, if before it is من حيث وحيث, if before it is a جملة شرطية, if before it is a لولا, if before it is a حمزة التسوية, structure. So once you have this table like in your mind, then it kind of like places things easy to remember. So you just know 3, 3, then here there's 5 here, something like that. I don't know, it helps me. I hope it helps you too to remember all these details. All right. I don't know if there's anything else, but that brings us to the end of this discussion, and tomorrow we'll look at فعل ماضي مضارع inshallah. If there are no questions, I think we can comfortably end there. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم guys.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
عليكم السلام.
جزاك الله خير.
وإياكم جزاكم الله خير.